Today, we're diving into a story that honestly has it all. We're talking a billion-dollar empire, a family completely torn apart, boardroom coups, and siblings literally on the run from the law. This is the wild, decade-long battle for control of the Yanson Group, the Philippines' largest bus company.
On one hand, you have this incredible legacy. The Yanson Group operates a massive fleet of nearly 5,000 buses and has over 18,000 employees. I mean, it is a true corporate giant. But on the other hand, ever since its founder died back in 2015, the company's story has been all about a bitter, very public, and sometimes even physical feud for control between the family members who inherited it all.
So to really get a handle on how we got here, we're going to walk through the whole saga. We'll look at the empire and the family that's divided, we'll dig into the patriarch's legacy that kind of planted the seeds of conflict, then we'll get to the dramatic boardroom war of 2019, the dizzying court battles, the shocking turn that made 4 siblings fugitives, and finally, where this unresolved family war stands today.
All right, first things first, let's break down who is fighting whom. This isn't just some simple disagreement, it's basically a corporate civil war with 2 very distinct sides.
So at the heart of this whole conflict, you have 2 clear factions. On one side, there's the family matriarch, Olivia Yanson, and she's allied with 2 of her children, Leo Ray and Jeanette. And on the other side, you've got the 4 siblings they called the Yanson 4. That's Roy, Emily, Selena, and Ricardo Jr. Seriously, understanding these 2 opposing groups is the key to everything that comes next.
So how in the world did a family business this successful end up in such a complete mess? Well, the conflict really exploded right after the family patriarch, Ricardo Yanson, passed away back in 2015. When the patriarch Ricardo Yanson died in 2015, he left a huge problem: no will. So the family initially tried to divide the estate using something called an extrajudicial settlement. But by 2018, things had soured, and the matriarch, Olivia, filed a complaint to challenge that exact settlement, claiming it was fraudulent, and that one document became the central battleground for control of the entire empire. At the center of all this is a legal document called an extrajudicial settlement, or EJS. Now, it's designed to be the easy way out, right? It lets heirs divide an estate without a long, messy court battle. The incredible irony here is that the very document meant to avoid court became the trigger for years and years of litigation. For a few years, this was a war fought mostly through lawyers and court filings. But in 2019, the conflict exploded from the courtroom right into the company's headquarters in a really dramatic corporate takeover. The whole thing really boiled over on July 7, 2019. The Yanson 4 held a board meeting, voted to kick their own brother Leo Ray out as president, and then physically took over the main office with private security. But that victory didn't last long. A month later, their mother, Olivia and Leo Ray, showed up backed by a massive police force and retook the compound. Now this is crucial. During their short time in charge, the Yanson 4 allegedly took key corporate documents, and that act would come back to haunt them with serious criminal charges. So after that physical showdown, the battle shifts back to the legal arena, where a series of just shocking twists and turns would completely flip the balance of power. For a moment there, it really looked like the Yanson 4 had this in the bag. In one court ruling, their mother's civil case against them actually got dismissed. They celebrated it as a massive win, thinking it proved their 2019 takeover was legitimate and that their ownership claim was solid. But then the tide turned, and it turned dramatically. In a landmark ruling, a different court didn't just disagree with the Yanson 4, it completely dismantled their entire legal foundation. Okay, so this is the absolute key point. The Yanson 4's entire claim to control rested on that 2015 settlement. But this landmark court ruling declared that very settlement null and void. Why? Well, the court found that Olivia had been defrauded. She'd been tricked into signing a document that falsely claimed she waived her entire 50% share in the company. With that one ruling, poof, the legal basis for the siblings' ownership was gone, and control was legally handed right back to their mother. And that brings us to the most severe and, well, the current chapter of this story. After all the fallout from the 2019 takeover, the legal trouble for the 4 siblings went from corporate disputes to actual criminal charges.
And listen, these are not minor charges. The Yanson 4 are facing active arrest warrants for multiple offenses. We're talking grave coercion for basically forcing their brother out of his office and violating the Anti-Carnapping Act for taking company vehicles. But the most serious one is qualified theft, which is a non-bailable offense in this case, all for those documents that went missing during their takeover. And because of all this, they have been officially labeled fugitives from justice.
Now, their fugitive status has huge legal consequences. The Philippine Supreme Court made it crystal clear, saying, quote, As long as the siblings remain in hiding to avoid active arrest warrants, they are completely barred from seeking judicial relief. In other words, you can't ask the courts for help when you're actively hiding from them.
And that right there, that creates a perfect legal checkmate. It's a classic catch-22. The only way for the Yanson 4 to fight for control of the company in court is to surrender. But if they surrender, they face immediate detention for a non-bailable crime. The legal battle has just ground to a complete halt because of this stalemate.
So after years of boardroom coups, police standoffs, and these landmark court rulings, where does this leave the massive Yanson empire today?
The situation is actually pretty clear-cut right now. Matriarch Olivia and her allies are firmly in control of the company. Their position was solidified by that court ruling that basically said the siblings' claim was bogus. Meanwhile, the Yanson 4 are still fugitives, and they're legally powerless to challenge their mother's control as long as they're in hiding.
You know, the rift in this family is so deep that not even an attempt at reconciliation by the then president of the Philippines could bring them back together. The legal and physical battles just kept going, and the family remains profoundly divided. There's really no resolution in sight.
So, what are the big takeaways here? First, a family empire has been absolutely torn apart by a dispute that escalated from the courtroom to physical takeovers. Second, the matriarch scored a decisive legal victory when a court found the core ownership document of her opponents was fraudulent. And third, the entire conflict is now just stuck in this state of legal limbo because the 4 siblings are still fugitives from the law.
This whole saga just leaves us with this one lingering question. In a story of legal wins and corporate losses, of control gained and families lost, when an empire tears itself apart this completely, is there any real victory to be won here? For anyone?